أعوذ بالله من الشیطان الرجیم بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well wherever you are. In this video, I would like to talk to you about the true meaning of the word Salah. And obviously, you know the word Salat comes from the same root, so it is very important for us to know the true and actual meaning of this word. But you might think, why do we want to know the true meaning of it? We already know it. So let's look at the two most prominent meanings that are attributed to the word Salah. One of them, as you know, is praying to. If you look at all current Quranic translation, I could say that 99.9% of them translate this word as saying prayers or praying to. But this meaning obviously cannot be correct. Why? Because we have a verse in the Quran that tells us that Allah and his angels perform salah or yusallun towards the Prophet. So inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. So Allah and his angels do salah towards the Prophet. There's also another verse that tells us that Allah and his angels do salah towards the believers to take them out of darkness to the light. So what does that mean? That just does not make sense, because if it means praying for someone, when you pray for someone, you obviously are praying to somebody for somebody, right? So let's say I pray to Allah for all the believers, or I pray to Allah for the Prophet. Now the question is, who is Allah praying to for the Prophet? Or who is Allah praying to for the believers? As you can see, that cannot be correct, because Allah is the one and only God. Everything, everyone in this universe prays to Allah for other entities, willingly or unwillingly. Allah does not pray to anyone for anything. That just does not make sense. So as you can see, this meaning falls apart pretty quickly. But there is another meaning that is a little bit more modern that some of the brothers have sent to me, and that meaning is following closely. But again, that would not make sense. Why? Because why would Allah and his angels follow the Prophet around closely? Why would Allah and his angels follow the believers around closely? It begs the question, don't they have anything better to do than following the Prophet and the believers around closely? It just doesn't make sense. So this meaning does not make sense either. So we have to look inside the Quran and let the Quran teach us what the true meaning of this word is. If we let the Quran talk, Quran can teach us the exact true actual meaning of this word. We just have to remove our colored glasses, our biased glasses off of our eyes, so we can actually see and realize and understand the true meaning of this word. So let's look at that together. Verse number 31 of chapter 75 in the Quran. This is actually a very important verse. It says, فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. He did not accept and did not do Salah. So he didn't accept and didn't Salah. So Salah, we don't know what the meaning of it. We are looking at an equation here, right? So Salah is our question mark, is our X. We are trying to find the meaning of the word Salah. So I'm not going to attribute any meanings to the word Salah. Let's keep Salah as our X, as our question mark, okay? So he didn't accept and didn't Salah, but he did reject and did turn away. So this is really important. He didn't accept, didn't Salah, but he did reject and did turn away. But if you pay close attention to this verse, you can see that saddaqa is the antonym or the exact opposite of kadhaba. So accept is the antonym of reject. When something is offered to you, you can either accept it or reject it. So that's what it is. Saddaqa means he accepted it. Now kadhaba means he rejected it. So saddaqa is the antonym or the exact opposite of kadhaba. So as soon as you understand that, you can see that Salla, whatever it is, has to be the exact opposite or the antonym of tawalla. So tawalla means turn away. It means he turned away. So Salla must be the antonym or the exact opposite of turning away. So when someone turns away, what is the antonym of it? What is the exact opposite of turning away? It's when you turn towards someone. So Salla is the exact opposite of tawalla. Saddaqa is the exact opposite of kadhaba. So tawalla means turning away. Salla must mean turning towards. That's how Allah is teaching us the true meaning of the word Salla. But let's see if we can actually find a very good example of the word tawalla. Let's see if we can understand and confirm the meaning of tawalla before we can say for sure what Salla means. So let's look at an instance of the word tawalla, because that is going to help us understand the true meaning of the word Salla as well. And a very good instance of the word tawalla is actually in verse number 1 of chapter 80 in the Quran. It says, Abasa wa tawalla and ja'ahu al-a'ma. He frowned and turned away because the blind came to him. So I'm not going to go into the interpretation of this verse. All that matters here is that somebody approached somebody, and this other person who was being approached by the blind man didn't like the fact that the blind man approached him. Because of that, he got upset. He frowned and he turned away from that blind man. I'm pretty sure it has happened to all of you. I'm pretty sure there has been instances that you all have had to do this. Somebody approached you and you didn't like it. You just turned away from them. Or if you're walking in the street, you see someone and you don't like them, you don't want to talk to them, you don't want to engage with them, you don't want to pay attention to them. What do? You just turn away from them. That's a body language, that's a natural reaction of each and every human being. You just turn away from that person if you don't want to engage with them, if you don't want to pay attention to them, if you don't want to talk to them. So as I demonstrated to you, tawalla means turning away from someone in the sense that you actually ignore them. You don't engage with them. You don't listen to them. You turn away from them. So that is the true meaning of the word tawalla. Based on this, what do you think the true meaning of the word Salla is? As I mentioned, Salla is the antonym or the exact opposite of the word tawalla. I showed to you that accepting is the antonym or the exact opposite of rejecting. So Salla is the exact opposite or antonym of turning away. So what does Salla mean? Salla means turning towards someone in the sense that you pay attention to them, you engage with them, you listen to them. So when you turn towards someone, you're giving that signal, you're giving that message that I am willing to talk to you, I'm willing to engage with you, I'm willing to listen to you, I want to pay attention to you. So that is Salla. And that's exactly the opposite of the word tawalla. And one more time, tawalla meant turning away from someone, ignoring someone, not engaging with them, not listening to them. And Salla is the exact opposite, as we said, turning towards someone, paying attention to them, engaging with them, listening to them. But this is so far a hypothesis. It's a theory. So we have to actually prove from the Quran that this theory, that this hypothesis that we have about the meaning of the word Salah is correct. How do we do that? We look at the other verses in the Quran that have used this word, and we see if the meaning actually fits, if the meaning makes sense. And if it does, then we know we got the correct meaning. If it does not fit, then we know that that meaning is not correct. The first Quranic verse that I would like for us to look at together is verse number 84 of chapter 9. It says, وَلَا تُصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. It means do not ever turn towards any one of them who dies, and do not stand at his grave. Allah is basically commanding his prophet not to pay any attention towards the hypocrites, towards the disbelievers when they die. He says, don't even turn towards them. Don't go to their grave. Don't turn towards them at all. Don't completely ignore them as if they did not even exist. Why? Because they did not turn towards Allah in their lifetime either. So basically, give them a taste of their own medicine. Act towards them just like they acted towards Allah and His Prophet. Let's look at verse number 103 of chapter 9. It says, وَصَلَّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And this verse is about the believers. It says, and turn towards them. Turn towards who? Turn towards the believers. Turn towards them. Indeed, your turning towards them is a reassurance for them. Why? Because then you turn towards them, you pay attention to them, you listen to them, you engage with them, and that is a reassurance for them. And Allah is an all-hearing and all-knowing. So He says, you see the opposite. The previous verse was about the hypocrites and the disbelievers. He says, don't even turn toward them, ignore them. Don't pay any attention to them. Now, this verse is about the believers, the true believers. It's like turn towards them, pay attention to them, engage with them, listen to them. Because when you turn towards them, that is a reassurance for them. So let's look at the next verse, and that is verse number 43 of chapter 33. It says, هُوَ الَّذِي يُصَلِّي عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ لِيُخْرِجَكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. It says, Allah is the one who turns towards you together with His angels, that He may bring you out from darknesses into the light. So in this verse, Allah is saying that I am the one who turns towards you. But He's talking about the believers. Allah is the one who turns towards the believers together with His angel, that He may bring them out from darknesses into the light. How does Allah turn towards the believers? It's when you call on to Allah, when you call upon the name of the Lord, when you call His holy name, when you beg Him, when you ask something from Him, when you ask guidance for Him, when you tell Him to guide you to the right path. And that's the time when Allah turns towards you. Allah listens to you, pays attention to you, engages with you. Not only Allah, but also His angels. So Allah is the one who turns towards you. As you can see, this meaning fits completely, fits perfectly. It just makes sense. So let's look at other verses. Verse number 56 of chapter 33. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Allah and His angels turn towards the Prophet. O you who have believed, turn towards him and submit in full submission to Allah. So as you can see here, it makes complete sense. Again, just like the previous verse, when Allah and His angels were turning towards the believers, paying attention to them, listening to them, engaging with them, By the same token, in the exact same way, Allah and His angels turn towards the Prophet. How? Whenever Prophet calls on Allah, whenever Prophet asks something from Allah, Allah listens to his prayers, to his requests, and engages with him, pays attention to him, and answers those prayers. And then Allah tells us that, oh, you who believe, Sallu alai. It means you turn towards the Prophet as well. What does it mean that you turn towards the Prophet? It means whenever Prophet asks for something, tells you something, turn towards him, pay attention to him, engage with him, listen to him. And then it says, وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا, and submit in full submission to Allah. And when you submit to Allah, what do? You turn towards the Prophet, because that's what Allah commands us to do. So we submit to Allah in full submission, and we turn towards the Prophet. And how do we do that? By obeying the Quran, because the Quran was revealed to the Prophet, and the Quran was the message that Prophet gave to us from Allah. So we have to turn towards the Prophet. We have to listen to the book that was revealed to the Prophet. And we have to submit in full submission to Allah. Now let's look at verse number 15 of chapter 87. It says, وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى, and he remembered the name of his Lord and turned towards him. So what does that mean? It means he remembered the name of Allah and turned towards him and paid attention to him, listened to him, engaged with him. And that's exactly what you are doing whenever you are performing Salah. You remember the name of Allah, you remember the name of your Lord, and what do you do next? Then you turn towards him. How do you turn towards him? By reciting his word. You are paying attention to Allah's word. You are engaging with Allah. You are paying attention to Allah and what he wants from you, what he's telling you. So you're turning towards him. Now let's look at verse number 157 of chapter 2. Again, this verse is about the believers. It says, أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. It says, those are the ones for whom there will be turning towards and mercy from their Lord. And it is those who are the rightly guided. As you can see, it's talking about the believers. It says Allah will turn towards the believers. Allah will listen to the believers, will engage with them, will pay attention to them. So if you are a true believer, and if you truly follow the word of God, if you truly follow Allah, if you're obedient towards him, a lot of people believe that that's the case. Christians believe that's the case. Jews believe that's the case. Muslims believe that's the case. Hindus believe that's the case. No, I'm talking about a true believer, someone who truly follows Allah, someone who truly reads the Quran the way it should be read, someone who truly listens to the Quran, listens to the commands of Allah and follows them. Then you have to rest assured that Allah will turn towards you. Allah will pay attention to you, listen to you, and engage with you, and will have abundant mercy on you. So that is really important. That's so reassuring. Now let's look at verse number 99 of chapter 9. ومن الأعراب من يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر ويتخذ ما ينفق قربات عند الله وصلوات الرسول. But among the Arabs are some who believe in Allah and the last day and consider what they spend as means of nearness to Allah and of the messengers turning towards them. So what does that mean? It means whenever they are doing charity, whenever they are giving charity, that money, that wealth that they spend in the way, in the cause of Allah, causes the messenger to turn towards them, pay attention to them, engage with them, listen to them. And that was truly the case, because it takes a lot to give from your wealth in the way of Allah. It does take a lot, and that's where we actually show our true self. Otherwise, everyone is very good at talking. We can all talk for several days, but we are not spending anything. Talking is cheap. It is in our actions that we show our true intentions. And it's when we actually do things for Allah. And that is the important part of it. That's when we actually demonstrate, prove, and show our faith. Otherwise, words are cheap, and we all know that. But what is the true meaning of the word Salah? Because Quran tells us, there's so many verses in the Quran that Allah commands us to stand the Salah. Let's look at verse number 114 of chapter 11. It says, وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيَ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and stand the Salah at the two ends of the day. It's talking obviously dawn and dusk, right? Two ends of the day, dawn and dusk, and at the approach of the night, zulafan min al-layl, early hours of the night. So it's talking about the three mandatory salah times, dawn, dusk, and early hours of night. So what is the salah? According to this meaning that we just discussed, and that's obviously turning towards something. So what is the Salah? So the Salah is a period of the day when you leave everything that you are doing behind in order to turn towards Allah and His words by reciting, reading, and listening to His words. That's what Salat means. So Salah is this period when you read the Quran, you recite the Quran, and you pay attention to Allah's words, you listen to them, you engage with them, you're inquiring, you want to see what it means. So that's what it is. That's why whenever you're performing the Salah, you have to actually be reciting the Quran. You have to be sing-songing the Quran, not too loud and not too quietly. So you have to find a middle path and recite them beautifully and sing-song them and understand them, of course. Because what you are doing is technically you are leaving everything behind just to turn towards Allah and His words. That's what Salah is, turning towards Allah and His words. I repeat this because this is very different than prayers. You can be saying prayers in the car, in the restroom, while taking showers. You can be saying prayers while napping. I mean, there's so many ways you can say prayers, but that is very different than Salah. Salah is not prayers. Salah is when you turn towards Allah by reading, reciting His words, and paying attention to Him. All your focus should be on Allah and His words during Salah, because you are technically turning towards Him. You're turning towards His call. And that is Salah. But let's look at another verse. And that is verse number 40 of chapter 22. It says, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسَاجِدُ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. And were it not that Allah repels some people by means of others, churches, monasteries, salawatun. I'm not going to say the meaning of salawatun right now. I'm just going to read exactly what it says, and we're going to come back to it. So salawatun, and also mosques in which Allah's name is much mentioned, would have been destroyed. So in this verse, Allah talks about the places of worship. So what are the places of worship? He's talking about sawami'. He's talking about bay'ah. He's talking about salawat, and also he's talking about masajid. So he's talking about churches, monasteries, and also mosques. As you can see, obviously, masajid in here is referring to mosques or places of worship, and it has been used parallel with sawami', bay'ah, va salawat. Obviously, we know sawami', obviously we know bay'ah, obviously we know masajid means mosque. So what is the meaning of the word salawat? And you should be able to know the meaning of the word salawat here very clearly now. You probably don't even need me to go over it. But just in case, I'm going to go over it because I want to demonstrate to you, I want to prove to you that this is the actual true meaning of the word Salla and the word Salah. So what is Salawat? Salawat is a place where people gather in order to turn towards Allah and pay attention to Him and His words, obviously by reciting, reading, and listening to His words. So what is a salawat? A place where all people gather to in order to turn towards Allah. That's what a salawat is. Just like the mosque where people gather to perform salah and to perform prostration and praise and glorify the name of the Lord. So one more time, let's go through the first verse that we went over at the beginning of this video. And that is a very, very key critical verse that you have to understand in order to understand the true meaning of the word Salah. My brothers, my sisters, I want to stress, and if you look at my other videos, I keep saying the same thing, that Allah knows the past, Allah knows the present, and Allah knows the future. Allah knows what future generations will discuss. Allah has already heard it. Allah heard it when He created Adam. Allah knew it because Allah is all knowing, all seeing, and all hearing. If you understand that, you realize that Allah hears your conversation. Allah knows that. Because of that, Allah knows that there will be huge confusion about the meaning of the word Salah. Allah knows that Satan, after the Prophet, will come and confuse the meaning of this word. The true meaning of this word will be forgotten. But at the same time, and because of that, Allah has made sure that the true meaning of this word is preserved in the Quran. And because of that, He has created this beautiful verse that says, فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. He didn't accept and didn't turn towards, but he rejected and turned away. So Allah has put the antonyms over there so we know what it means. As I mentioned, reject is the antonym of accept, and therefore turn away is the antonym of Salla, which is turning towards. So Salla means turning towards someone in the sense of paying attention to them, listening to them, engaging with them, as opposed to tawalla, which means turning away from someone in the sense that you don't want to engage with them, you don't want to listen to them, you don't want to pay any attention to them. So you're turning away from that person. But let's say, for the sake of example, if you call me towards the verses of Allah, if you call me towards the message of Allah, and I turn towards you, I'm interested, I want to listen, I want to engage, I want to hear, I pay attention, that what I am doing is that I am doing Salah towards you. I turn towards you. But if I reject, I do turn away from you. I don't pay attention to you. I don't want to listen. I know I kind of explained a little bit too much. I went through all the verses, but I wanted you all to understand this really well. I wanted all my brothers and sisters who truly follow the Quran, who truly have submitted themselves to Allah and His words, and do not associate anything or anyone with Allah and His words, to fully understand, comprehend, and learn the meaning of the word Salah, so that they could always, when they read these Quranic verses, have a very good grasp of what it means. And also when they're performing Salah, you should know what you're doing. You're turning towards Allah, you're engaging with Him, you're paying attention to Him and His words. So it's a very important. So you have to be sharp and you have to be at your best performance when you're performing Salah, because you're basically what you're doing, you're turning towards Allah. That's why it's so important that you should not be drinking, you should not be drowsy, you should not be tired, and you should be sharp, smart, strong, polite, and ready to turn towards Allah, engage with Him, pay attention to Him, listen to Him by reciting His verses not too loud and not too quietly. Having said that, we are at the end of this Quranic conversation. Peace and blessings from Allah to all of you. Inshallah, you all learned something. Keep me in your prayers, brothers and sisters. Ma salam, with peace. Stay safe. God bless.